I think the momentum is on RDU's side, frankly.
Yeah, momentum's got to be on RDU's side, but I don't think that's going to bother Ostkaka at all.
We're going to find out because game number 1 is getting underway right now with Ostkaka versus RDU, guys. Whew, this match going to be so good. I can't wait to see what these guys are bringing.
Yeah, I can't wait either. And Ostkaka, ooh, looks like he's mixing it up a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, playing an aggressive strategy definitely can throw your opponents off guard, especially when you're known and regarded as a very strong control player.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see if he really mixes up the order in which he plays his decks here. In one of his matches where he played with that is Arcane Golem.
That is really, really telling of how he wants to play this game. You know, I mean, there's a possibility something like Faceless Manipulators in this deck to couple it with something like Power Overwhelming. I wouldn't put that against him because something else that Ostkaka really likes to have in his decks is some sort of combo element.
Yeah, you can definitely see that in most of the decks that he chooses. He's almost always playing some kind of combo control variant.
Yeah. Now, I will say if there's a matchup that can give this deck a lot of trouble, it is definitely Handlock.
Yeah, and I love this. We talk about how RDU is going to be the aggressive one here, and Ostkaka is going to be controlling, and here they are, each one trying to, change up what they're bringing to the game to try to, get a movement on their opponent.
Yeah, both of them, I think, really understand the dynamic here, and so the swap here, both of them are doing the same things. It's going to be interesting to see how they actually interpret this in their next couple of games.
Yeah, I see if one of them keeps coming from left field, changing it, like if RDU stays control-wise, or if Ostkaka stays away from control. It's going to be interesting to see if they revert back to their, comfort zones once they've lost a game or are behind a little bit.
So this is really a spot where Ostkaka's got a lot of decisions in front of him, and it looks like he's going to take the one that, his instinct is to take the one anyway, that plays around Hellfire the best. So if he plays Voidwalker and a Ruby and an Egg, and his opponent Hellfires, he's going to be left with a 4/4 on the table. If he plays this Imp Gang boss, everything's going to be cleared except for a 1/1. And so not only is the Voidwalker going to protect both of these 3/2s, but it's also going to protect himself against Hellfire. So really great foresight from Ostkaka.
I like this play a lot more than the other one as well because this is the aggressive one. It's pushing for the most damage as well.
Yeah, that's another thing it does too, and this is really going to set RD on a back foot. We actually heard Caldy say he felt like he threw a match by not coining out a Twilight Drake in one of them. And maybe RDU understands this quite well, knows that he has to get something on the board and really get things moving if he wants to end up winning this game.
Yeah, Ostkaka looks to be in a great shape right here going forward. There is a Molten Giant in RDU's hand, so when he pushes for a bunch of damage this turn, it could come out next turn, but RDU doesn't have a ton of ways to deal with what's going on the board here, and he doesn't have a way to taunt up just yet. This Arcane Golem, this Abusive Starter, might be enough to push this game in Ostkaka's favor.
Yeah, that's something that I'm looking at too, the fact that RDU's had to commit to the board early. Both of those Mountain Giants likely to be stranded in his hand, and as you can imagine, versus a bunch of 1 cost and 2 cost 3 power minions, Big Game Hunter's really not that effective.
Yeah, Big Game Hunter not going to help him out a lot here. Now he's down to 13, so he can play these Molten Giants, but unless he does something like Live Tap, he can't do much else this turn besides just this Mortal Coil, which is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a very big turning point in the game for Ostkaka here. Mortal Coil would take up this Voidwalker, going to be able to start smashing these 3/2s.
He picks up a Sludge Belcher too, it's going to be good next turn.
The big one is whether or not he wants to tap in Molten Giant, and if he taps, he's going down to 11, and then he's dead to just a couple of extra points of damage. And so he's just going to play Molten Giant here and then look to back this up with Sludge Belcher and Anti-Keelbot.
Yeah. Ostkaka, he had a couple top decks actually finish the game right then and there.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I mean, he had 11 points of damage in his hand and just needed 2 more. Abusive Sergeant would have been good enough.
Yeah, Abusive Sergeant, Power Overwhelming,
But now that he's seen one Molten Giant, is he fearing a push here? I think at this spot, he's got to feel comfortable with where he's at. But, Arcane Golem, this is only 4 damage if your opponent doesn't have a taunt. So, yeah, he's going to just go ahead and play it here. RDU's moving into 5 mana anyway, so Sludge Belcher is going to be readily available. The only thing that you ever really enable here is a life tap into Defender of Argus. But when you're setting your opponent to 2, you don't have to worry about the life tap.
Yeah, when you set him to 2, they can't life tap anymore. And I like this play from Ostkaka as well. It shuts off things like Hellfire as well. He can't use this anymore unless he couples it with some kind of heal, but he doesn't have enough mana to do all that. And he would have taunted up a little bit. I think he would have taunted up the turn before if he had a way to do it, unless he has something like exactly Sludge Belcher.
Yeah, and RDU's actually fearing stuff like Dark Bomb, maybe even Hellfire, an Iron Beak Owl. Wants to go with Anti-Healbot here first and make sure that that if RDU didn't have damage, that if Ostkaka didn't have damage last turn, that he likely isn't going to have extra damage this turn as well.
All right, so where do you put this Defender of Argus here this turn?
I don't think you want the Nerubian Egg to be taunted personally, but given that he has so much pressure out, maybe he does want to have that be taunted. Has to be worried a little bit about maybe a top deck Mortal Coil. Just going to kind of think through this and really hedge his bets against everything. Honestly, I don't even think Implosion's that bad. I think Implosion's totally fine here.
Yeah, I think that was actually one of the reasons why he pushed a little bit earlier when he drew the Implosion. He had some backup to help remove a giant taunter if that was going forward. You might have seen him maybe change his mind that turn if he didn't have something like Implosion in his hand.
Yep. So now the other question though is if he uses Implosion, does he target the Molten Giant or does he actually target the Anti-Healbot?
That's a really, all right, you target the Molten Giant if you're willing to run your Abusive Sergeant into it, or this egg.
I think you're willing to use an Abusive Sergeant to kill an 8-power minion, usually.
Oh yeah, for sure,
but he's just going to push for damage here.
Just push for damage.
Yeah, don't mind this at all. I mean, right now, RDU has to find a way to actually kill all of these minions, and it's looking like he's struggling a little bit to do that.
Yeah, I mean, he does have a Sludge Belcher in his hand. He can actually, you know, play another free Molten Giant this turn as well, so he's just going to have to hope this is going to be good enough going forward.
Yeah, I mean, if he sees something like an Iron Regal, he's just toasted. Power Overwhelming would be good enough. Implosion, Soulfire, that's definitely good enough. You know, I didn't expect Soulfire to be in this deck, but Ostkaka understands that RDU is very capable of playing strategies that can get to low life totals and then defend themselves, and so he wants that little bit of extra push. And honestly, with Arcane Golem, it's really not that big a surprise. Ostkaka going to take a very quick 1 lead here over RDU.
Yeah, this is big, big, big for Ostkaka here. Getting on the board in Game 1, I talked about this, getting an easy win, getting your first win on the board right away, take the pressure off, because I don't care how stoic you are, when you're 0-4, if you lose that first game of a match, it's got to get to you.
I mean, it definitely can. I think in that sort of position, you know, nobody's invincible to the idea of tilting. If you're having a terrible stretch of games, you are going to think about that. I don't care what you claim, it's going to weigh on your mind. But something I really want to talk about with this is the amount of damage that he had dedicated to utility in this game. You know, I assume Power Overwhelmings are in this deck as well. Soulfire looks like it's in this build. You know, he's kind of, you know, thinned his consistency edge to make sure he can make those middle game and late game pushes.
Yeah, his deck was very aggressive with a lot of really good, cheap finishers. I love this deck from him.
Yeah, looking beautiful. If you guys want to go take a look for yourself, you can head over to pvplive.net and see the full breakdowns from this match. Stats recaps, the cards they played, how they played their strategies, everything is available. It was a quick one, but when you get those kind of draws, you know, it's bound to be a little bit quick. So right now they're making changes to their decks. That's the HPL format. Players can play whatever they want at any time. And when we come back, we're going to be getting into game number 2. RDU wants to tie up the series, but Ostkaka is out to a 1-0 lead. Don't go anywhere, guys. You're watching Hearthstone on PvP Live.